Sup, nerd?
Mingalava, and welcome back to another episode of SupCast. Here with me, Adam Ton, also known as Tuna. And this week's very special guest is none other than our beautiful, gorgeous, good friend, who's the queen of bling and the mama of bananas, also known as the Mama San of the YouTube scene in Singapore. Or is it Singapore only? Or Malaysia as well?
Just Singapore.
Just Singapore. All right. It's none other than Lingyi from Wabanada. Hello. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me at this hour.
At this hour. It's
normally,
so early.
Yeah. Normally I'll be sleeping already,
Aren't you like
that's how I keep this face going.
Keep the face and the body and everything.
Yeah.
Nice. So for those who are not that familiar with you, maybe you can just give us a little intro of like what you do for a living or in life in general.
Right. So I run a production house called 01 Studio, and we have a YouTube channel which is called Wa Banana. We do comedy mainly, and that's pretty much about it.
You gotta say it with like gusto, like "Wah, banana."
Wow, banana.
There you go. That's what we're waiting for. All right. So what we're gonna talk about today here is Disney and Pixar's latest animated feature film, which also, unfortunately, it's not just in cinemas; it's also on streaming as well. I mean, it could be a fortunate thing as well, so you don't have to go to the cinema to watch it. So we are talking about Turning Red. It just came out about a week and a half ago, I believe, on Disney Plus. It's how do I start with this? It's basically a coming of age story of a Canadian Chinese girl, and the movie was set in the year 2002. We're going to get into some minor spoilers as well, so this is like a spoiler warning. But let's get first of all, let's get the overall feel. Lingyi, how did you feel about this film overall?
First of all, I just want to ask that did you invite me to this podcast because I'm Chinese?
I was going to say like, hey, that's fitting. She's been to Jersey. That's close enough to Toronto. Well, that's one of the reasons as well. And, if you actually watch our previous episodes, mostly it's dudes like talking about stuff. So for this particular film, I think it's like, it's more apt to have like a female friend.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. Yeah, I think it's appropriate. Overall feeling. I quite like it. I enjoyed it. I like the characters, and the storyline is, I wouldn't say it's very unpredictable, because I'm very big on storyline as a viewer for any kind of things. However, there are a couple of moments that actually made me smile in a very good way, not because it's funny or something, but in a very good way. So overall, I would say it's a pretty decent film.
And going back to the reason why I asked you to be on the show, how much do you relate to it? Like, but this story is basically about a 13-year-old kid, like, it's a growing up kind of a coming of age story, especially for girls. So how much did you relate to it?
To be honest, I don't really relate much to the girl herself, because I think my growing up experience is quite different from hers. And of course, hers was exaggerated a little bit to have the stereotype thing of
very
Asian
stereotypical
kids.
Right?
Yeah, very, very extremely. But I can't really relate to her, but I did relate to the other part of the movie, which is the relationship between her and her mother.
So did you have a tiger mom as well?
No, I wouldn't call my mom a tiger mom, but actually it's not even the relationship between her and her mom at the beginning of the film. More at the end of the film that sort of resonated a little bit. And yeah.
It's a very human story as well. There was actually like a slight controversy for the usual online trolls and some reviewers calling this is like very, they can relate to it because it's about like this Asian teenager girl, blah blah blah. But I personally felt, I found a couple of things that I could relate to as well. And it could be a good segue into like our next topic, which is the setting. The setting initially, I thought it was like modern day, but then I realized that hold on, they're not using their mobile phones that much. And then when they started using it, they're like, oh, those are like the flip phones and all that stuff. It's like it's based in 2002. How well do you think that they portrayed 2002? I mean, you grew up in that age as well, right? So
I think in 2002 I was 14,
oh,
which is exactly the same, age of the girl. Well, I've never been to Toronto, so I'm not sure how's the life there. You know what? I didn't realize it was like it was a set from 2002, because are we allowed to talk about the content in the film? Because it's major spoiler.
Spoilers, yeah. We give like a spoiler warning.
Right.
Let's go for it.
So especially like when the boy band came out, to me they were like a K-pop boy band.
Yeah, I agree with that, because initially I thought, okay, boy band, right? But then there's one Korean guy, so I was like,
and all that stuff, which is I love that part. I thought that part was like great touch, and I laughed, I smiled during that part. So that's very modern, I would say. And I would say that K-pop culture was not that big back in 2002.
Yeah, I had no idea there was like such a thing as K-pop.
Yeah.
2002. Yeah, I can't remember. I remember boy
2002.
Band.
Yeah, right. So to me, it never occurred to me it was the film was from 2002.
Yeah, only later. I think it's about like a quarter of the way into the film where I realized that, oh, it's actually in 2002. Okay. Another thing that I want to talk about is the whole story itself. For those who are not familiar with this film, it's basically about a Canadian Chinese girl who's 13. And what she realizes, like her whole family has this like kind of a curse, or it's like a gift or a curse kind of thing, where they turn into giant like red pandas when the females turn into like red pandas at a certain age. And it's a story about her trying to deal with this transformation, which is also not so subtle thing about growing pains as a teenager, becoming a woman. So how much of like the relationship as a teenager growing up, did they manage to portray or put like those kind of parallels between being a giant panda out of nowhere kind of thing? How did you feel about that?
Right. So when she first turned into the giant panda, I had to admit that I thought they were really talking about having the period for the first time. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay, that I'm describing a woman who's on her period for the very first time as a red panda is a little bit bizarre. Yeah, and it's quite bizarre and pretty brave. So I just thought it was way too bizarre to be even controversial, because so then later on I realized I mean it's more than that, right? So later on I realized the red panda might represent a lot of things, basically things that to me personally speaking, I felt that it represented as a different personality that you want to have, but might not be approved by the general society, especially Chinese culture. So I thought that's what it's being representing.
Right. Speaking of like Chinese culture, right? Does the red panda as like animals or part of the mythical, background or whatever, do they stand for anything? Do they mean anything in the like Chinese culture?
Not that I know of.
Okay. I actually thought that red pandas are more common in Japan as well, right? Because I don't know.
Right. So red panda was never a major thing, I would say, in China, because panda is the big thing. So, in fact, in China, red pandas called little pandas.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cute.
So they're like little pandas. Yeah. So we know of them, but they were never really a mainstream animal.
They got taken over by the bigger cousins. They're like,
Right.
I see. Yeah, because for me, I first heard of red pandas through like Japanese. Like I think it was like an anime or a movie. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was more, common in Japan. But this is interesting. Next up, let's talk about Domee Shi. Came out of nowhere, but actually, she's been she got this like great success story because she was an intern in Pixar. By the way, this is a Disney Pixar film, but it's generally a Pixar film, right? So she was an intern 11 years ago in Pixar, and then she got the job and she worked on like movies like some Toy Story 3 or something like that. And what I love about Pixar, I'm actually a big fan of Pixar, so I'm sure most people are, because these guys managed to make us like care for and like cry and shed tears over these animated feature films. They're amazing. What I love about Pixar, not just the movies, they do short films, right? They always do short films.
Right.
And initially it was all like the head honchos coming up with some ideas, but as the company grew over the 2 decades or so, they managed to do like, okay, for short films, if you're working at Pixar, whether you're like an animation artist or whatever, you pitch an idea. If your idea gets picked, you get to direct this short film. And that's how they find like the next directors for the feature films. And what Domee did was she did Bao, that short film from I think it was 2018, about that. It's like, it could be like the first Asian like culture centric short film by Pixar.
Right. And she won, right?
She won an Oscar. She won an Oscar. I was like, wow. That short film, it was quite dark as well. It got dark, but it's very relatable.
It was really dark.
I think it could. It's on Disney Plus as well. If you guys haven't seen it, like you should definitely go watch it. And from there, because obviously, right, she won an Oscar, and she's like she's young as well. She's a young up and coming like director. So they gave her this chance with Turning Red, which is also another kind of a interesting fact, because most of the time you have, if you check out like Toy Story 4 or other Pixar films, there's multiple directors or like multiple writers and all that stuff. This one, Turning Red, Domee's like the only director. It's her vision from start to finish. And they managed to do it within like 4 years as well, which is like kind of relatively short for a Pixar film. How much do you know about her? Like how do you feel about Domee in general?
I actually didn't even know Bao was directed by I knew that it was definitely directed by Chinese, American,
Chinese,
or
right,
Canadian, Chinese descendant, but I didn't know that it was a female director, because the main character in Bao was a guy. I think
was a guy, yeah.
Was a dude, right?
It was
so so it never occurred to me. Of course, I relate deeply to that short film. I think it's very relatable, very dark. Loved it. Short and sweet. I mean, not so sweet, but short and great.
It's sweet. It has an happy ending, right? Kind of.
Yeah, you have to watch it. So yeah, to draw any kind of conclusion. But anyway, I don't know much about her. So I did research a little bit. Call it research. I did Google her a little bit after Turning Red, and then I find out, okay, she's Canadian, right? She moved to Canada when she was 2, and she's originally from Chongqing, China, where the pandas are from, I think.
Oh,
nearby, but the big pandas, not the small panda. I actually think they chose the red panda on purpose, because it's like panda. Everybody knows panda, Chinese, but then if you use panda again, it's a little bit overdone. And red panda, it's like, yeah, exactly. And red panda is a little bit more exotic, I would say, because it's not that mainstream. So I think they chose this on purpose. Anyway, with that said, I actually don't know much about her. I read her career path and all that. Yeah, she's one talented lady and very lucky, I would say.
Yeah, she's like what? She's only 34 around there, so it's quite young.
Yeah, I think she's 34 or 35 tops.
Yeah, I'm actually like really interested to see like where she would go after this. Like Turning Red reviews are coming in like pretty, general good praise coming up. The box office we don't know because it was released simultaneously on streaming platform on Disney Plus as well. So money wise, we'll have to see what kind of numbers they look at because on streaming services they don't know. I don't know, Nelson ratings or whatever.
Mhm.
So another cool thing that I've read about Domee and her team for Turning Red is that this is like the first ever, like kind of in a way, all female team. I'm not saying like everybody involved in the film is all female. It's more like all the leads, the key, like decision makers, like the lead producer, animation, all that. It's like an all female team, and that's like I think it's pretty cool that they came together to tell a story specifically
Yeah.
about a girl as well. I think that's good. There are a bit of controversy again, to like, oh, it's all female, but I don't know, maybe I actually empathize with the story because they told a human story. You don't have to be a girl to enjoy or relate to these kind of stories, right? If it's like good storytelling, I don't know why some people are just like complaining like, oh, it's all for girls, blah, 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 blah. How do you feel about that though, on that topic where a film like this is made by, all females and, guys are not involved in the decision making? How do you feel about that?
First of all, I think they had a great time working together because as a, professional myself, professionally speaking from personal experience, I find it much easier to work with female. Yeah, just have to say that if you have to put a gender card on that, yeah, it's much easier to work with female and female are much more easy to work with. So I think she had a great time working with her team. Second of all, I didn't pay attention to whether her team was fully female or otherwise, just like nobody's really paying attention to that, honestly, to any other film. So I don't really think it's even, I actually didn't know it was a big topic. And let's say if it is a big topic and people are talking about it, then I only see the great things about this because I think they had a great working experience. And for controversial topic that we're talking about right now, it's like I actually don't see any. I actually went to Google. I was like, okay, Turning Red controversy, and I tried to read all these articles. They are very ambiguous. I still don't know what is the controversy. Like, what is controversial?
I think there's just a certain part of the internet, especially in like the YouTube and the movie reviews scene, where because they hate woke stuff, anything that's relatively a little bit more progressive and woke, they'll go against it. So they're these kind of guys.
What's so progressive about this film?
All female team, blah blah blah. Like they're pushing. They think
right.
They might not even watch the movie. Most of these guys don't even watch the movie, and they just like, oh, all female team, they're pushing it, blah 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 blah. It has happened over a lot of things, but there are some. I have to admit though, there are some movies or some TV series where they just try to cash in on this wokeness that the reason they were doing it is not because of personal reason or story reasons. They do it because it's the in thing. Like, for example, the CW series Batwoman, they try to give her like female power and then totally beating down guys for no reason, not part of the story. Horrible. And it fails after like the first season, the lead change and all that. So there are some movies like that as well, right? But there's also that group who just screams at things that are either female led or whether it's like homosexuality or whatever. There are those guys, unfortunately, and they make noise, and that's why the controversy goes like people are like blah 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 blah, which I hate. Now I think there were some people also saying like, oh, it's about an Asian kid in Toronto, I can't relate to it, So I was like, dude, if you're after the story, we relate it to like, some old white man, dying in Alaska because it's a human story. You go for the human story,
Exactly.
right? I don't know why people do that. But let's talk about more like happier stuff. There's always that part of the internet and like, the community of movie fans. But let's talk about the cast, the vibrant cast. Who was the standout for you? I think they're all great, but like, who was the standout for you?
Man, wow. Okay, I loved all the aunties. They remind me of my aunties. And the thing is, my grandmother had 4 daughters.
Oh no, nice.
But it's not my mom's mom,
Right.
but my dad's mom. Besides my dad, then she had 4 daughters, and then they were exactly like that. And whenever she shows up, and then 4 of my aunties will show up. So I love the aunties for that, and the dad is pretty cute.
True, right?
I actually
cute.
paid attention to the dad. Okay, the main 4 girls, was it 4 of them? Yeah, 4 of them. There's one that's very boyish, very cross, the short one. I forgot her name.
The round one?
The round one.
That's my favorite. That's Abby. She's Korean.
Yeah. Oh, yes, she spoke Korean.
She started like cursing in Korean and
What's up, mate?
Yeah, and the boy band, love them.
the boy band.
I think they're very on point. Yeah, so I think all the side characters stood out to me quite a bit. The main character is pretty remarkable as well, but the side characters.
And apart from Sandra Oh, who voices the mom Ming, the rest are relatively like, they're like small, like not that well known. They've been like, because especially the lead actress who voiced May, I think she's only 16 or something. She is a teenager. She's a kid.
Teenagers grow fast nowadays. Okay, they have all the information that we were not given when we were kids.
I know.
They're pretty much a 16-year-old now is pretty much a 26-year-old.
Wow, hold on. We're getting into like, controversial territory right here.
No, I'm just saying they're mature.
These young 16-year-olds these days. No, even the dad as well. The grandma is like quite a well-known side character, actress. She's actually pretty old as well. She's like 70 something. And the aunties and even the 4 main cast, I've actually have never heard of them until now. When I Google after watching the movie, like, who are these people, right?
Were they like professional voice actors?
No, they're more like actresses, like
actress. Okay.
They acted in like TV series and small roles in movies, but not like lead roles. And the girl who voices Abby, a Korean girl, her name is like I can't pronounce it well. She's Korean, and she's actually working in Pixar. She's one of the artists, and she had like a very small role in Soul, the previous Pixar movie. You remember Soul, the pianist guy? So there was this one scene when he was like, after he died, spoilers for Soul. After he died, he was on the travelator going into heaven, and he's trying to break out, right? There was one girl screaming in Korean, like, "Where are we?" or something like that.
Oh, that right. That was her? Oh my gosh.
So after that, she got a bigger role, and then she's pretty cool as well. I saw the interviews, and she's like a badass like girl, like leather jackets and all that. I like it, like how Pixar's giving a chance where not just like cashing in on big name voice actresses or actress, and then they're giving these even their own employees for a chance at like acting. I really love it. So Abby's my favorite. If you had to pick a favorite, like what would it be?
Wow. It's very hard to pick. I'm not sure. The dad, maybe.
The dad.
Yeah.
It was quite touching when he had that little chat with her. near the end.
Uh,
It's like
oh, not so much of that part. It's just small details of how they animated him. It's
his
like when
face.
the mom is like sending the pets. He paused and he rewind. Those were like very memorable scenes for me because I can
Ah,
imagine my dad doing exactly same
it's
thing.
like, ooh, it's like, nope.
Yeah.
And I think
Grandma was one of my favorite as well.
grandma's
She
like
is
quite
so badass.
badass, right? Scary and walking is like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, big spoiler alert. And the things for grandma is I suspected that the mom might turn,
Right.
but I didn't suspect.
The
I
grandma.
didn't see grandma turn. Yeah.
Ah, nice. And when they hugged at the end, when grandma hugged the mom, that hit me as all that. I don't know why. That
No.
worked. That worked for me. It's not that my mom was ever like mean to me like that, but it's or
Right.
my dad. It just feel like it's like again a human story that I can like I think it's
Yeah.
empathy. If you have some empathy, you can definitely like enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
story, well told.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
And grandma had a Harry Potter scar. Yeah, they
Scar,
never explained it. Never explained it, but most likely it's
but
from the daughter, right? When the
from the
daughter
daughter. So
transformed.
yeah. Yeah, it was like I watched it with my kid as well, right? And he's a 6-year-old boy. And he actually likes it, especially near the end, because it turned into like a kaiju movie. He kept like
Right.
rewatching that scene at the stadium. And he just loves it when the giant mob showed up. He was like, ah. Um, Speaking of the singers and all that music, I found that it was really cool that they managed to do like the 2000s boy band sound. And of course, I didn't know until like Google after the movie as well. The music was done by Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas, which was like totally out of the left field. Like, what?
Even the Cantonese ones.
I'm not so sure about that. Do you understand what they were chanting?
No, I could only tell it was Cantonese, but I
Yeah, I can
really
tell it's
didn't
Canto,
know.
but I don't know what it means because they
Yeah,
never. I
they
got
didn't
the
put
subtitles
subtitles.
on, but they didn't say just
Yeah,
like
it didn't
chanting in
explain.
Cantonese. I was like,
Da, 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 da.
okay.
Uh, yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know they did the music. It was pretty nice.
Yeah, it was surprising and very different from their usual style because they're more like
Very.
electronic,
Mhm.
dark kind of like beats. The
I love
whispers and
Billie
all that.
Eilish, by the way,
Ah, Philly. She's
and
all
her
grown
brother.
up now. She's all
Yeah,
grown up now. I mean, she even did a James Bond, like, song,
yeah,
like a theme song.
yeah. She's amazing. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
amazing.
wow. I mean, she's ticking off like, yeah, do a Bond song, and now it's like, do a Pixar Disney movie. And it's really good. Going back to that controversy, I think this was like the first movie where they show or talk about like periods and like say about tampons and pads.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people were like freaking out about those like super uptight people were like, ooh,
Right. I saw
that, right?
something. They were like,
They're
leave this
complaining.
teaching to us, because they don't want their kids to learn this from a movie, I suppose. I think that was their
Oh,
standpoint.
okay. So if it's
Was
something
it?
like
I saw
that,
something like that.
okay. If you're coming from that kind of an approach, I kind of understand it. Like, if you're a parent,
Well,
I
you're a
want.
dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't
So I
have the
can't say.
daughters that would like, but of course I understand in a sense where you want to be the person to tell your kid, to explain it to them. But there are some where I read it's more like, how could they show this in a kids movie? That kind of a thing, where approach is like, dude, what's so weird about it, right? Other cartoons you show like horrific stuff. Mulan had like a whole like village massacred.
Yeah.
Fighting
Yeah.
evil, the mother died in the first 5 minutes.
Hey, these parents probably just refusing to believe their 10-year-old kids are, reading
Stuff.
certain stuff in their room.
Oh my god.
Like I said, a 10-year-old back then, but no, a 10-year-old right now is like a 20-year-old of us back then. Okay. They're very knowledgeable.
Very knowledgeable. Yeah. So I feel like all the negative, hopefully the negative, criticisms and the noise that these people are making wouldn't affect the film. And I really hope that it sort of like succeeds, not just in like financially, but also so that we can see more of this. Where as a creator as well, like I'm not a filmmaker. I want to be, but I'm not. But to see like a filmmaker, a singular filmmaker's like vision being brought to the big screen, it's always good. Like I prefer this rather than like to see the credits in like 20 writers and like 3 directors kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
Studio involvement a lot, those kind of things. But compared to that, these kind of like special movies, I want to see more, especially from big studios like Pixar and Disney, where they trust a director's vision is like go for it.
Yeah.
I love
Okay.
it.
I actually have a view to share. Not really a view, a personal view to share.
Okay.
So Shang-Chi was out, right? And I really didn't like it, and I just want to take this chance to say that.
Why?
Right. So from my standpoint, right?
Okay.
I just thought the story was a bit silly. I mean, maybe because I'm not a comic fan. So the ending, hated it. Storyline, hated it.
Which part of the ending you hate? Everything? Like
how
turn into like a Chinese fantasy movie?
No, how his dad died like that, like so easily.
Oh yeah, that one I didn't like as well because
I hated it.
Dude, he was like,
and how Aquafina managed to kill the dragon even though she only had 1 day of training. Like, yeah, have you seen the size of that dragon and the size of that arrow? It doesn't make fucking sense. Sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Can.
You can beep that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was like, are you like I'm not stupid, okay? Like, why? And then what got me even more pissed off is not pissed off, not sold, basically. There were lots of opinions saying Shang-Chi is a great Marvel movie because it showed the mainstream Hollywood Chinese culture, right? So that was a big debate, not really debate, big point. To me, I was like, have you guys seen amazing Chinese Kung Fu movies? They are so much more impressive than this, storyline wise, production wise, acting wise, right? So then it got me a little bit upset because I asked myself, I was like, why do we have to do for Chinese, let's say for Chinese or even Asian filmmakers, why do we need to impress the so-called mainstream market, with a culturally modified, culturally friendly film to show to the particular market? I don't see, what's that? I don't see Spanish doing that. They're not making film to please the Hollywood audience, and they don't change their culture just to do that. With all that statements made, I just feel that Turning Red actually didn't make me feel this way. I just feel that they're doing what they want, and then people like it.
I agree with that point. Where I always like films when they just want to tell a story that they're good. Like I mentioned earlier as well, right? There are people and companies, the big corporations, they try to jump on the bandwagon because that's the in thing. It's cool to be woke. It's cool to do Asian stuff now. Those kind of things, right? I think that's like very, in a way, right? Slightly insulting as well. I feel like you're like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
right?
Like they're trying to make some money from
yeah, exactly.
Just this group of people.
Yes, exactly. So movies like Turning Red, and I'm not sure if you watched like The Farewell with Aquafina.
Oh, I cried so much within 2 minutes of that movie. I cried the entire movie.
I love those kind of movies as well. Again, like there's nothing much for me to relate. Like I'm not Chinese,
right?
I wasn't living in New York, kind of a thing. But it's a human story, right? And then because I was hooked into that human story, I learned about the cultural differences and the details, the nuances, and those kind of films. That's what we want. Like Hollywood,
exactly.
Right? It's not like, oh, we respect Chinese. It's not like that.
No, it's not like that. What I hate to see is a movie that's like using full Chinese or Asian cast and then storylines completely still Hollywood, and then somebody called this, as a very good bridge to bridge the culture. I was like, that's not the way to bridge the culture. Bridge the culture is to create a real story that actually represent the correct culture.
Yeah.
From people who know the culture. We're not saying that American Chinese can make American Chinese culture. It's just like Turning Red. I think it's
because it's not like she's telling a story from her perspective as like a Canadian Chinese girl who was brought up there. I want to experience that story. Like I want to hear that. Don't just shove Chinese culture in for a movie that they're making just so that they can own, cover the Asian market.
Right.
Good God. Speaking of which, how did you feel? A little segue. How did you feel about Crazy Rich Asians?
What was that?
Crazy Rich Asians. Did that give you like those kind of like cultural nuances and details that you were looking for about Singapore?
No, I mean that I would call it. I don't know what to call it. To be fair, I think the soundtrack of that movie was amazing, and I think some of the scenes were filmed very beautifully. Yes, it put Singapore on the map, but does it represent Singapore culture and what Singapore filmmakers want to showcase? Absolutely not. But do I enjoy that movie? To be honest, that movie is never set out to be we're gonna be like this great storytelling film. No, they set out to be entertaining, I think. And actually read the book afterwards because I want to find out like why was the book so popular? How much
was it like accurate?
Man, it was pretty accurate, I'd say. I would say that in that aspect, I think it's very accurate. But I don't remember which one I liked more, the book or the movie. Both for entertainment, just
for entertainment. So we do want more films like Turning Red, that kind of it's a comedy, right? But it has heart. Movies that has heart, that want to tell a proper human story.
Exactly. Crazy Rich Asian didn't have heart. Yes, that's one way to put it. No, not so much. It was a robot.
Stuff like The Farewell, we want to see more. Those who are listening, maybe if you guys have like other examples, let us know, because I want to figure it out as well. I want to watch these kind of movies, find out about, I don't know, some faraway country that I've never been to, or get more nuances and details about a culture. We don't get these kind of films that often, so for these special ones, I do want to watch. Okay, so before we wrap up, perhaps we do this thing. I mean, it doesn't matter, but we do the scoring system kind of a thing. So how much would you score Turning Red out of 10, let's say?
Oh my God, if Inside Out was a 10 for me, Inside Out was a 10 for me, I remember. Then Turning Red, I'd give it an 8.
8? Interesting.
Yeah, I give it an 8. Yeah.
Well, what was the last Pixar film you watched before Turning Red? Was it Soul? Did you watch Soul?
I watched Soul. I didn't like Soul.
You didn't like Soul? No. Is it because
it's too predictable?
Is it because there are no Asians in it?
Yes. No. I just feel that the concept was so good, but the storyline was just so predictable. Yeah. And it's not like something it's not a story that I've not heard before. It's just that's just a personal opinion. Like, for example, Inside Out, I just never thought about it. So I like film that make me feel that. Yeah.
I don't know why that last scene when the parents were hugging her and then she just sighed and cried at the same time. I was just like, what the hell? I'm not supposed to feel.
Which one? Turning Red?
No, Inside Out.
Inside Out. Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
When she finally let go.
Yeah.
Cried.
Right.
I was like, what's her name? Riley, right? Her name, yeah. When it's okay to be sad, that moment, and then that memory form, I was just like,
oh.
Sorry, I don't cry in movies.
When I almost cried for Turning Red. I almost cried when she looked back at her panda. When she was trying to break away from the panda. And when the panda
aw.
looked back and she looked back, I was like, oh, yeah, where's my panda?
Did you keep your panda as well?
Yeah, I think I've
Okay.
kept my panda.
Okay. Is it a,
Yeah,
a normal
always.
panda? Not a red one? It's just like a big.
No, mine was a small one. Red, my
Now,
panda's red. It's not the mainstream black and white one. Yeah.
you're not mainstream at all. Right. So eight out of 10 for me. I think I'll give it about 7.5.
All right.
It's to be honest, right? Again, I have the same issue with the Batman or most movies. This is what I do. The moment I finish watching it, I will be like trying to think of a score, but then I'll go back and let it simmer for about a day. Some movies get better once I start thinking about it, and then I like it more. The Batman movies, like Batman, I kind of hate it more after I start thinking about it. So the Batman became about like 7 or something like that,
Right.
7.5. Turning Red, yeah, I think. Tell you what, I'll give it an 8 as well. I like it.
Ah!
High fives.
Wait, what was your 10 out of 10 Pixar movie?
Pixar movie. Wow, that's because I think Inside Out's there. Inside Out is
Right.
there.
Okay.
Visually, I would say Toy Story 4 visually is 10 out of 10 for me. Not story wise, but
I have to tell
visually.
you something.
You haven't seen
I
it
have
yet.
never watched Toy Story.
Wait,
Not even one
all
of it.
four. All four of them. None. Yow. Okay.
I know, right?
You have to get
But just
that
to
shit sorted
clarify on
out.
that, I know. I need to. I wanted to. I intend to. Because hey, I'm Chinese. I grew up with a different culture where I watch different cartoons.
What were you watching?
My textbook.
Propaganda.
No, TV was not allowed.
It was live puppet shows about Mao.
Yes, it was, and owning that. No, I watched a lot of. My favorite kind of cartoon when I was a kid was those Chinese makes this. They the watercolor. They draw stuff with watercolor.
Okay.
So there were cartoon that was animated from watercolor drawings, and those were my like favorite cartoon when I was a kid.
Right?
Yeah, it was a childhood thing, and then a lot of Japanese cartoon, of course. But American culture didn't hit me until much later.
Only when you left for college, or?
No, but I think American cartoon culture, for example,
Okay.
When it hit me, when I think I've already grown past the age of watching cartoon. I think the first few the first few Americans. I mean, of course, Disney stuff, yes, but the American cartoon, I think, closest thing I would say is South Park and Family Guy.
South Park's amazing.
which are the first two, like thing, big thing that
Western
I started
animation.
watching.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your first ever Pixar movie? You remember?
No, I don't remember.
Because they've been around for a while.
Yeah, I know. What are some Pixar movies?
Googling.
Yeah, I'm trying to see which ones I've watched.
And which one is your favorite? Since you asked me.
I watched Coco. I love Up. Up was I watched Up. I think that might be one of the first few.
I love Kevin from Up, the bird, the female bird called Kevin. What else?
I'm looking at the Pixar movie, Incredibles, but not so much. I think Up was the first film.
I see.
That I've watched.
I've always been a fan of Pixar since their first couple of films. The only one that I didn't watch was Cars 2. Because I've watched the first one, and then it was just for selling toys. But they made Cars 2. That was the first time when I felt that Pixar was just doing like.
I mean, Ratatouille, yes, I watched that as well. Bugs Life.
Bugs Life was very early. It was like quite.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough for you if you start watching like the older films again, like the first ever
No,
Toy
I don't
Story,
think I could do that.
because you'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, but then again, it came out in 1995. The first Toy Story
Right.
was 1995, so
Yeah, I was not born back then, you know.
like, yeah, you were born in 97, right? So you're
Yeah.
25 years old now.
Yeah. What can I say?
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you so much once again for joining us here on SupCast, Lingyi. Any websites or stuff that you want to promote for you guys? Just a little shout out. Go check out.
Shout out to Wabanana, youtube.com/Wabanana. And our second channel, After Hours, where we do game shows and stuff.
Ooh, game shows.
Yeah.
Go check that out as well.
Yeah. Follow me at Lingyi because I post like great photos. Yeah.
About Chinese culture. If you want to learn more about Chinese culture, please follow
me at Lingyi.
Lingyi.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Turning Red is now out on Disney Plus. I don't think they're showing it in the cinemas here in Singapore, right? I think it's only on streaming.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus for sure. If it's in the cinemas, it is worth watching. Visuals are great. It's funny. It's more like a heartfelt growing up, coming of age comedy. But don't listen to the naysayers. Like, you can totally relate to it if you're human, if you got empathy. So go watch it. Thanks again for joining us here on SupCast. I'm Adam Tuan, also known as Tuna. See you guys next time. Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Ciao, ciao, or
Yeah.
大家好. No, 大家好 is hello, right? 再见. You should say 再见.
再见，再见。
Sup, nerd.